Well, that first morning, you see it's beautiful. We did have leeches, and I never went into that before, except swimming. So occasionally,
Look down, there's a leech hanging on their skin.
yeah, you would know how they got on you, but they crawl onto you. They didn't get into our tents, but just having breakfast and cleaning up, they get on you. They seem pretty
Didn't
harmless.
seem to do any harm.
Yeah, but we all, gastroenterology, we all got sick. We all had to go on Cipro, which our friendly doctor, Trekker, his instinct was to not have us go on antibiotics until it really proved to him that we were quite sick. Although it was nice having him along, he was, if anything, applied the brakes all the time.
Apparently, the people who live there don't get sick because they're used to all the bacteria and giardia and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're not sick or whether they've just made friends with whatever bugs are in there. But that we were up in that same territory back in the 80s. That's actually a very heavily traveled trek, very popular.
Did you take the circuit around?
We took the circuit around the whole thing, from road to road, trailhead to trailhead. Got taken up by bus and picked up, loaded into a tiny bus, all of the porters and us. The trip out of Kathmandu was horrendous. It was the beginning of a holiday. It took us about 4 hours just to make it a mile out of town, just with everybody heading out of town. Buses with goats on the roof and everybody heading out. And I think the most dangerous part of the whole trip was that bus ride, wheeling around the corners and on the wrong side of the road honking the horn. Other questions?
How much are the Chinese infiltrated there? Are there many Chinese who come there to live, or are they mostly just government officials?
How much do the Chinese infiltrate? I really don't think there was. But when I say Tibetan, these people have immigrated, I don't know, many. It was just, that's where they lived up there. I'm not even sure if you could call it immigration. But I believe the Dalai Lama came through when he escaped through this area. The Chinese were there in Tibet. We have a friend who has a sort of Himalayan gallery out in Santa Fe, and he has, as part of his gallery, he sells contemporary Tibetan art. I was looking at the art, and I said, "Where's the angst? Are these people angry?" Some beautiful pictures of things. I said, Tibet, there's not a whole lot of angst. They're certainly wealthier than the Nepalis. They've been given roads and railroads and jobs, and they're living better than they've ever lived before. The religious people are very unhappy with it, but your normal Tibetan is unhappy in the culture, and here's the art. There wasn't any angst. But in Nepal, I don't think they have. I think the Chinese who live in Tibet don't even really want to be there. They've been sent there. They wouldn't naturally come into Nepal. Trade is really going the other way.
What do you think are the top 4 reasons an American from Farmington should think about taking a trip to Nepal?
Well, do it while you're young. 1, 2, hire a really good trekking company that has 30, well, it would be 6 staff members for each trekker, so that you can afford some kind of comfort. It wasn't that expensive, which tells you how much they're actually getting paid. Not very much. Bring lots of medicine and be prepared to leave the world behind. all your support systems. Why would you want to go there?
To know why you should do that.
Oh, why you should go there? Well, if you want
Four reasons.
4 reasons. One is if you really are curious what it would be like to live in the 14th century. One would be to visit an area that really is changing very quickly and see what traditional how mountain people live. One reason is if you want to lose about 15 pounds. And one is to try out your new camera. I don't know. Okay, last question.
Did you have not an epiphany, but as a result of this experience, did you have an appreciation for, or just kind of a change in the way you felt life was because of that?
I'm not one to go through religious experience. It was tough, and I kept very close the picture of where the halfway point was. And when we reached the halfway point, I just got happy. And I suddenly, it was kind of near the halfway point anyway. I just looked around and said, God, this is so beautiful here. We are so far away from everything. And up until then, I was nervous. I was nervous about getting sick, nervous about being so far away from everything, getting hurt, not sure if I could make it over the pass. And this is a few days short of the pass, and I just said, wow, suddenly my eyes cleared, and I said, this is just really gorgeous, and I'm really happy to be here. But I still, when the guy said, you want to try some of this hashish, it's really neat, but it's really not bad. I said, no, I'm happy. It's just so far out of my comfort zone, I just can't deal with it.
This makes me curious, why did you decide in the first place to go there?
Well, I didn't think it was going to be that hard. I'd done this before. It felt like gosh, I can do this. I know I can do this. And as soon as we landed in Kathmandu, I said, oh, I'm remembering being quite sick the first time. I'm remembering the difficulty, and my cash card didn't work. That was a big deal. I hadn't brought enough cash for everything. And I don't know, I kept trying to take out about $400 worth, and somehow the translation in Nepali rupees kicked it just above $400. So my Bank of America thing just didn't go through because it was above the limit. And I couldn't figure out how to get cash, and it was driving me nuts, out of proportion. And finally, Bill lent me some money. I kept trying to call Bank of America overseas, everything. You try and bring some civilization, bring home with you in certain ways, and I felt everywhere I turned was just that far outside of what I'm used to. We stayed at friends of Bill's. She was worked at she was a diplomat, and they had servants, and they had a generator that would kick on immediately when the power would go out, which was 3 or 4 times a day, and great food. I mean, we couldn't have been more comfortable in Kathmandu. But then we walked through the village and through the marketplace, and it was just so far from anything that you would imagine. Nepal is one of the poorest countries in the world. And you see some of these kids, and they look healthy and clean, and bright and attractive. But it's a very poor country, and you see it mostly in the city.
We talked about the 2 different Hinduism and Buddhism. Did you feel like you got much exposure to each of those to learn more about it, or to observe the practices? How did they meld or not meld together?
When I gave this talk before in the library, I showed a lot more of what was going on in Kathmandu. We looked at both a lot of stuff from both religions. And this, I couldn't tell that story here, but yeah, we spent a lot of time learning about that, including going to Hindu ghats along the river where they were burning the dead, and with cows, sacred cows running around, monkeys running around, families and kids in the river trying to find gold teeth with, the chaos, very unlike what you expect here with the quiet and respect. It just seemed so far outside what you would respect, but that's the way they did it. And it had its own set of rules and very carefully done, and the washing of the body, and it's all out here in public and just different. That was Hindu and Buddhist stuff. It's a Hindu country, but there's a lot of Buddhism throughout. And I'm not a student of it, I'm a scholar, but I really learned a few things. But it was all over the place. Little statues all up and down the street. Little offerings all the time. It's a huge part of the civilization there. I just had a hard time absorbing it and not feel like I knew it.
Thank you all for coming, and please, if you didn't leave your email, if you missed the paper I have in my pocket, just go to the library website and email me, and I'll put you on the list, because we'd love to have you come back for our next program on Denali. So it's kind of appropriate segue too. So